Happy Wednesday and welcome to another midweek program. I'm Evan Villani, a gardener at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum. I'm joined today by the lovely, the respected Mark Weathington, director of the Arboretum, and Greg Paige. Why are you laughing?
I think because I'm lovely.
Yeah,
which
sorry.
I appreciate.
Greg Paige, Director of Horticulture. And today we will be talking about the fall plant sale, which opened to members at 12 noon today and is already rocking and rolling. Some wonderful, unique things. All of our sales are unique. So, Greg, Mark, what do we have with us today?
Excellent. Thank you, Blake. I want to add a couple things. One, not Blake. I'm so used to thanking Blake. Thank you, Evan.
I called Greg Mark the other week in exactly the same way.
Wanted to add the sale. We do not ship plants. You have to pick up on site. And there's some pickup days once the sale is over. And unlike our auctions, and there was something else, but it went right out of my head. Oh, did you mention my talk?
Ooh, tomorrow, Mark's talking about Japan. Friends of the Arboretum lecture.
Not to be missed.
That's right. We're going to talk about gardens and nurseries and plants in Japan. So, should be fun.
Not to be missed.
All right.
What are we talking about today? Plant sale plants.
Plant sale plants. We got some good plants.
The plant sale is cooking. We've all kept our proverbial eyes on it. Mark has it pulled up. I think Evan does too. Buy frequently and often. Things are going really, really quickly. And we have some things here to share that haven't quite moved yet, and I'm always baffled by that because we go through a lot of pain, research, heartache, trials and tribulations to pick these things. We try to pick things that are kind of in the theme of what we do here, unique, really good garden plants that are going to add a lot to your garden. So we really look at sources with a magnifying glass and go through availabilities with a fine-tooth comb. It's quite a process, and it's nice when it kind of gels and clicks and people start buying things.
And I think we usually, and this time for sure, have a good mix of things that are tried and true that have sometimes been overlooked, things that are new that, we hope all these are good plants. There's some things that are new for us that we don't know.
Yep.
Sometimes, a lot of times, some of the plants that wind up in our plant sale list are because we want one or three of them, and so we're like, well, hey, let's go ahead and get 10 or 15 and share them with friends and family. And then, there's that kind of unusual stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else.
No, it's a good opportunity to add to some things that we have here, but also kind of share that interest with all of you, and in particular our members who always get the first crack. If that's not a reason to become a member, I don't know what is. That and a sundry of other things. I'm going to go ahead and dive into things, and we can wade through stuff. We're doing something sort of kind of new this year. We're selling plugs. And a lot of perennial growers grow things in landscape plugs, which are great to add to the garden, just kind of as they kind of live and breathe. And this is how they come to us. And you can see the trays are little cells, little plugs that each of these plants starts off in. And the nice thing about these is you get a nice deep root ball with already a good start to it, lots of good healthy roots, and it's absolutely kind of a no-brainer on planting these guys. They don't need a lot of disturbance, just kind of pull them apart, pop them in the hole, and they're going to establish relatively quickly. Grasses are really easy to start. These came from our friends at Hoffman's. This is one that I've kind of had my eye on for a long time. This is Spirabolus prairie dropseed, and this is a good lawn alternative. It forms these nice kind of moundy hussicks of silvery green leaves. The thing that I like most about this, it's kind of a good moundy ground cover, has a really nice texture to it, lots of movement in the wind, but to me it smells like popcorn. Other people have told me it smells like roasted nuts, but it definitely has a really strong aroma, and you wouldn't think of an ornamental grass kind of hitting you in that perspective, but it definitely does. It's a good one to establish. We use this on some no-mow areas where I've worked in the past. It's good for establishing, holding the soil on hillsides. One of the dams in our ponds where I used to work at, we had a whole hillside of this planted there, and it did a good job of holding that bank together with not a lot of attention to the detail of stuff, but a really, really good grass that I like a lot. And we've got these guys for sale. And they haven't been moving really quickly. I hope they do now because it's a really, really good one. And this is something you want to buy in, a group of 3 or 5 or something like that.
Or 15 or 20.
Yes.
That's why we got the plugs, because we could get you a big gallon, 3-gallon grass if you want. And we also have some plugs of some other flowering things, some great pollinator plants.
Yep.
But those plugs, God, if I could get everything, including trees, about that size to plant, I would. They establish so well. Sometimes people say they struggle with getting some ornamental grasses established. What that usually is they buy cool season grasses in the spring.
Yeah.
And so we've got some great cool season grasses that planting now, they will just love it. They'll pop up. They'll be looking great next year. We've got some incredible carex as well. That, man, and in plugs, they're really affordable, so you can plant a bunch.
And I did bring some carex also.
Oh, good.
Forget which one this
That's
is.
muskingensis.
Yep. Ice fountainina.
Yeah, ice fountains. Hard to.
I spelled it wrong on my list.
Yeah, this is a great little Asian carex. Carex muskingensis is one that I've grown for ages. It makes these little stalks, real kind of wispy and thin, but more upright. It'll have like little stems on it.
See them there.
And this one is variegated with some creamy yellow. It can go more white. Great for shade. I've never grown this ice fountains. This was a new one for me, but I've grown, gosh, I don't know how many of them in the past. There's a great one called Olme, after the great landscape architect who used a lot of these. But man, these plugs are where it is at.
And a last one is Schizocarum hahatonka. And this comes from the P. Udolph collection. And this is little blue stem. And this particular cultivar, there's several of them. And this one is about 12 to 15 feet tall, 12 to 15 inches tall, and kind of right in the middle of all the cultivars. So I really like the size of this one. I've used this in a couple of gardens in the past. But you can see the nice white roots on this that are in that little strata there. This is ready to go. A lot of little blue stem, they can kind of flop as they get bigger. This one stays nice and tight. And one of the keys to that is they kind of thrive on tough love. Mm-hmm. They don't like a lot of rich soil. They're very soil adaptable. But this is a great plant for a no-mow. This is used a lot in prairie plantings and meadows, but I really like this particular cultivar. There's one called the Blues, I think, that's a little bit bigger than this. This one's kind of right in the middle of all the cultivars and does really, really well. I think they found it in Missouri in a native planting and developed it.
I haven't grown hahatonka. Do you know if it gets good like winter color? A lot of these get burgundy up and get really nice.
This does have that nice color, really, really nice. But it's that size and that structure that it's known for. It stays kind of tight. And
there's kind of a classic thing with gardeners is they get into fall and late fall and they visit a garden and they say, "Wow, I should plant more ornamental grasses. They really look nice now." Don't be that person. Plant some ornamental grasses.
Plant them now.
Plant them now. Yeah, we get seduced by the flowers in spring, and we forget that to have a good garden, you need that texture.
And nothing is as good as grasses and carex for those textures. Let's talk about something woody.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a catalpa ovata. We have native catalpas, but this is one that I actually collected with our friends from down in Atlanta, Scott McMahon and Ozzie Johnson and Donglin Zhang from University of Georgia. And this was growing in Shaanxi, not terribly far from where, from Xi'an, where the terracotta soldiers are, if you know the terracotta soldiers. And if you've seen pictures of it, they don't do it justice. Holy cow, that's crazy. And they haven't found it all. But this is much like our native catalpa. This will grow quickly into a good-sized tree, have great big leaves on it, really showy, gigantic, kind of light purple lavender flowers on there. I grow a couple of different catalpa in my garden at home, and one of them I cut back hard every year. It doesn't flower for me because I cut it back hard, but I let it grow a couple of years, but it cut it back hard, and it shoots up with several stems. The leaves get really big, and it's just this cool textural thing. The other one I cut back every year. I don't have a lot of space. I can't. They take over if I didn't.
Get big.
And I only let one stem grow. I kind of just with my thumbs, I have a green thumb, by just rubbing off all the little bits when they come up, and I'll let one stem grow. And in the course of one growing season, it's up outside a second floor window. It's my guest room at the house, and people look out and are like, "What is that thing with those huge leaves?" And so it's this really cool, fun plant. And if you're a fisherman, it can. I would guess, I don't know for certain, that this species will support catalpa worms.
Yep.
And there's nothing better, ask any southerner, there's nothing better for fishing than a catalpa worm. So, but great plant, and I'm really liking this as a young plant. If you can kind of see there the petiole on the leaf and some of the veins on the leaf have a real nice red to it. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing, probably on this, if you do let it grow into a big tree, it'll kind of lose a lot of that. But if you cut it back, I would guess that you'll keep getting that. It may be even brighter, but I don't know. And now I'm looking at this, now I'm like, maybe we should go through all the ones we have and see if we have ones with good, even more red in there.
That's why I pulled that one, because it was a darker green and that red showed up a little bit more, but they all kind of have that to a degree. Late in the season, I think it's starting to fade. The thing I like about this, I love catalpa. I love the flowers. I like that big gaudy foliage. It can look a little bit like a paulownia, but it's not aggressive by any stretch of the imagination. One of the nice things about this one, it doesn't get quite as big as our native one, but it still has those beautiful flowers.
Yeah, it was very cool seeing this in the wild. And for those of you who've been members and know us for a long time, you may not know it, but our former intern, who is now the director at the U.S. National Arboretum, he did his research with catalpas. So there's a special connection there, and he was very excited about wild collected catalpa ovata. So
You gonna name drop him?
yeah, Rich Olson. Sorry.
Richard Olson.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Figured everybody knew him.
Yeah, right. Quick question from Judy. Does catalpa take full sun?
Does catalpa take full? Yes.
And does it take, or does it need full sun? Maybe is a better way to phrase that.
It is going to do much better with full sun.
It's going to flower more in full sun. I've seen them in a little bit of shade, and they don't have quite as many flowers on them, but it's definitely a full sun tree.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
So next one up here, and I was surprised to see that I don't think any of them had been sold. I may be wrong. This is Cyrilla racemiflora, Woodlander's little leaf. This is a native. What's the common name for it? Tai.
Which I don't know. It's one of those common names that I've never
heard anybody use it. I've never used it. I have no idea where it comes from. Bob McCartney at Woodlanders is a friend of ours who was a rabid plantsman, and introduced a lot of these. There's a pink one too that's got the little leaves that I had. That's spectacular. But you can see here, way down at the bottom, it has these long racemes of white flowers that, as it gets older, they'll be on the ends of the, further down on the stems. But that's kind of a little preview of what you're getting when you get this plant. I love this texture. The leaves will turn yellow in the fall. Nothing too spectacular, but it's a great, very, very underutilized native that attracts lots of pollinators. It's a really, really good kind of underutilized large shrub. And from my perspective, and I think a lot of more work needs to be done with these. We recently went on a trip with the interns. Evan was with us and visited the folks at Panoramic, and our friend David Hyatt, who's always thinking about stuff, asked, what are some natives that we should be growing? And this was the first thing that jumped in my head when he asked that question is Cyrilla.
Just last week, I was on a call with Morton Arboretum and some other folks at Botanic Gardens and conservation and kind of things. And one of the last things that was thrown out as a discussion was, what's a plant that does really well for you, a native plant that does really well for you that should be more in the marketplace? And typed in chat, Cyrilla racemiflora.
Yeah.
It is a great plant, and you undersell it with you say, well, it's really good with pollinators. It is insane.
Yeah.
And former director here, Denny Werner, really loved this plant, and I was at his house, and he had it growing under, kind of high pine shade, and I think of it as a full sun plant, but his was beautiful. So I think it's even more adaptable, and it's incredibly drought tolerant, but where it grows wild, it's often in kind of wet areas. So it's just such a good plant and should be much more widely grown.
Yeah, it's these are the kind of natives that I'm interested in getting people interested in. Stuff like this and propagating more of these. So keep your eyes peeled for these in the not too distant future.
And when you say large shrub, how large are we talking?
How long do you got for it to grow? I have seen this as more of a really rounded multi-stem small tree, about 18 or 20 feet tall. But that was one that was, probably maybe 30 years old, growing in a botanic garden out in a, open full sun spot.
Right.
In a 10-year, say what, 10, 12 feet maybe?
That's a good garden size. Most of the ones I've seen are like in the 10 to 12 feet range, and kind of multi-stemmed.
Yeah. When it gets older, you can kind of limit up a little bit and make it into one of those, kind of multi-stemmed small tree. Think, a little Japanese maple, as that would be a big one. But you can also cut it back and keep it much smaller. It is not going to mind being cut back at all.
No, it can take a little bit of pruning as it kind of gets established. Looking at some more herbaceous stuff, there are very few peonies that I don't like, and this is a herbaceous one called Do Tell. It has kind of single petals, and then in the center, I don't know how to describe that, like a rosette of dissected petals.
Yeah.
Pinks to a darker pink in the center, and I've even seen some that are almost white, the petals out on the end. If you do a Google search, you'll get kind of all aspects of that. I don't know if it's a soil dependent thing, but this is a nice clump forming one. I just love herbaceous peonies, and I've got several in my small garden, and there's always room for more. Another reason I brought this is, we are in the dog days of summer. We started into September, and some of these guys that you get, things are going to be as nice and fresh as we can make them at this time of the year, but plants are starting to go dormant, so you're going to see some leaves starting to turn brown on some of these things, but we try to pick things that are nice and lush when you get them. But just a buyer beware note that it is that time of the year. Things are starting to go in that direction, but most of our stuff is nice and lush and green. And also to remind folks that this is a herbaceous peony. This is going to die back to the ground, and it'll come back up in the spring.
Yeah, I've already cut back all my herbaceous
I have
peonies
too.
at home.
Yeah, they got ugly real quick.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. And I like this online sale because we do put pictures online of the plants, but we go in and we're seduced at the garden center by what looks the best.
Right.
And sometimes that isn't really what is going to be the best plant for you, or plant that'll really knock you out. So I kind of like it that it's not so much impulse buying. Oh, look at that, it's pretty. And we've got quite a few peonies in there in the sale. We do love them. And
I think there's only 2 left.
Only 2 types?
2 types from what I saw.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Rolling out the herbaceous stuff here. I was, as Mark just said, don't get pulled into what's looking nice and shiny, but I definitely was lulled into that when I went down to the nursery to get some of these guys. And also some things that we had large numbers of still to try to sway you into getting these really, really good plants. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Coreopsis. They tend to not last long in my garden. They always have some of the classics like Moonbeam and some of the other ones. The tick seed ones, I've killed and ripped out and fallen out of love with them. This is a new one that I like the color of. This is Coreopsis Mercury Rising, and there's a flower there, Blake. It's got that kind of maroon petals with those nice yellow centers, which is kind of a classic Coreopsis flower arrangement. And we're into September, y'all, and there's a ton of new buds coming up on these guys. And nice clump. It's pretty disease resistant. It's still nice and green and looks good and lush. It's got a lot of roots in there. It's nice and heavy. Clump forming. People say that this is deer resistant. Okay. I've not seen them damage them in any gardens that I've been in recently or that I've worked in. That's not to say that they won't. But I like these mounds. I like these planted in little groups. You get more bang for your buck with that uncharacteristic darker flower from this Coreopsis. So I'm hopeful. I don't know if this is a Terra Nova one, perchance.
I can't remember.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
It's funny when I hear you talking because I have so many of the same experiences with Coreopsis, and especially these red ones.
Yeah.
They were introduced. They're hybrid with I think Coreopsis roseus,
Yep.
which is more or less an annual.
Yes.
And they came out with these red ones, and they said, "Oh no, these are perennial," because they were hybrids, and somebody hadn't done much testing because they were terrible plants.
Yeah.
But they've gone back in and they've done a lot of back crossing with better plants and these wider leaves. The roseus was like the Moonbeam, which was nice with that really thin leaf. And so these have got some other species in there, and they are the newer ones. I don't know this one particularly, but the newer ones are just worlds better.
Much improved.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful, and I've heard good things about this one from some other gardeners, and the texture is that's a really thick leaf for a Coreopsis.
I think this is going to be nice, and I've never seen them looking the red ones, the old red ones, looking that good.
No.
In a pot, even in spring, really.
No. And these guys, I'm also surprised the numbers were very high. 2 different Heucherellas here. This is a cross between a Tiarella and a Heuchera, which I think is the best of both worlds. For me, these have always done a little bit better than just straight Heuchera. It almost is like they've got some Heuchera villosa in them. They've got that kind of nice texture. Mm-hmm. These are kind of some of the old standbys that have been around for a while that have performed well, which is why we grab these, because people always gravitate towards them. And there's some that, not as bad as the Coreopsis that just kind of fade out in my garden really quickly. These are great foundation plants. They're great for containers. They're great together, but I like the 2 different colors. This one here is Sweet Tea. This is a favorite drink of all of us that work here, Tim in particular. But I like the nice orange, the warm tones that this one has that are in contrast with, this is Plum Cascade. Not sure how long they've been around, but I feel like they've been around for a while.
Sweet tea has for sure been around and available, and is such a good plant. That is one of the very best for the heat.
Yep.
You know, the heucheras don't like the heat. That one is great. And this Plum Cascade, I don't know how long it's been released, but I saw it a decade plus
At least.
at Terra Nova, who introduced it. And this was really developed because it was grown in a hanging basket and it was cascading over, you know. And so if you plant it in the ground, it'll spread out more. And these, like you said, heucherellas, the tiarellas are much better for us. So these hybrids do much better. And they've been breeding with Heuchera villosa, as you mentioned, and that's you can
feel
see
it here.
you feel the leaves are a little rougher and have some hairs on there. And they've just gotten so much better. And the heucherellas with that tiarella blood flower nicer. They have showier flowers than heucheras. One thing I learned about heuchera and heucherellas and tiarellas to an extent is they hate having leaves fall on them.
Yeah.
So they're woodland, they're shade plants, but you do need to go out and kind of rake, you know, make sure leaves aren't really sitting on top of them, especially maple leaves, which tend to get flat and mat down. But if you do that, you know, you're in good shape.
Fairly trouble-free.
Yeah.
This is a good one. I like that kind of silvery, smoky texture it has, and you can see the veination. I like that deep or darker color. That really, the light this time of the year really highlights the differences in these. But just good, hard-working garden plants.
Relatively drought tolerant, and they're nice in containers in shady spots. You know, people struggle with getting really good color in containers in shady spots. And
I'm glad you mentioned that about the leaves, because that's something I often forget to tell people. And the flowers are nice.
Yeah.
Just the foliage is doing really good this time of the year. But the flower spikes are about that tall.
And these
I
keep
think
a
that's
nice
everybody.
color in the shade too.
yeah, keep their color in the shade.
Yep. Yep. That's a valuable asset there.
Very pleasant plant. Have we run out of plants?
We've run out of plants.
Wow.
That's everybody.
Already.
That's everybody.
Well, I will mention a few other things that we have. We have a lot of camellias, and it's funny because Sophia swears I picked them out. But I was going through, I was reading through descriptions and things, and adding little comments in there. Every once in a while you'll see, when you see where it says, Mark says, or the director says, that's usually something I've written, just because I have little thoughts that I want to add to. But I was going through there, and I worked at a garden. We had 3,000 camellias. I kind of got over camellias.
It can happen.
And I'm reading the descriptions, and I'm like, oh man,
There
was a whole list of them that I wanted. And then when I said something to Sophia about what a great job you and her did on picking them out, she's like, well, you picked them all out. I sent you a list, you picked them all out. Like,
you picked out the bulk of them, and
I don't remember that.
We gave you here's the story, and I'm sticking to it. We gave him the availability. He put his little pencil mark on them, and she and I sat down and we kind of fleshed it out. But we had two great sources that we were working with, and some of it was memory lane, picking ones that I've liked for a while. There's one in particular called Nucchio's Cameo. That's from a really famous camellia breeder out in California.
Yeah.
And I've ordered plants from them in the past, and it's a beautiful, gorgeous flower. But we like to do kind of an unofficial theme every year. I think it was Japanese maples last year.
In the spring.
Yeah, in the spring. So we need to talk about what we're going to do for the spring.
Yeah.
For the 50th.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the camellias are cool, and there are the camellias, what I noticed going through, one of the reasons I sometimes struggle with camellias is many of them have beautiful flowers and are ugly shrubs. They get open. They're just, and in the shade they can suck the light because they're so dark. And so many of them were bred for flower shows.
Big
it was
flower.
all about the flower. And looking at the ones we have, there are a lot of them that have really good form. God, we got this little one, and I like the ones with like Japanese names and stuff, but we got one that's slim and trim.
Yeah.
And it's just these perfect little plants. We've got the species Camellia Transarensis, which I think we saw together back in 2014 in Taiwan.
Yep.
It's a great plant with a little leaf. It's so much more delicate and but tough with small white flowers, but tons of them.
And that's something that I learned from Doug. That's something that Ted Stevens would always talk about when he would do his lectures on camellias, is looking past the flower, looking at the form of the plant. And I remember some of the early days of lectures with Ted where he would roll through 350 slides like it was nothing, and all the ones that caught my eye were the species ones.
Yeah.
Because of those textures and usually sometimes a simple flower, but just completely covered. So we do have some really good ones in the sale this year. And hopefully we've got a few extras that we can pop in the garden in some places. But
there were one or two that I was planning on ordering that are already gone, but we've got fragrant ones, high fragrance.
Yeah.
The other thing, I cannot believe we didn't mention the other thing, exciting thing about the sale, and this goes back a little bit to where you talked about it being fall, and some of the plants will look a little shaggy, but they'll have great root systems and be really good, is we've renovated our lath house, and we've gotten some things that were in the lath house that are fantastic plants. Got a toad lily, which doesn't look great in the pot now because we dug it up and we whacked them back a little bit, but they're got great root systems and will be amazing plants. It's one called Fluffy Orchid that I saw at the Gainesville campus of Atlanta Botanic Garden. I was like, what is that toad lily?
yeah.
And they said, well, it's, Fluffy Orchid. And I said, where did it come from? No idea. All we could figure out, maybe it was bred for the cut flower industry.
Yeah.
It stays much more upright than other Triceratops hirta, and it just is a flowering machine with large flowers, and it's in flower. It absolutely stunned me, and has been a vigorous clumping form, not the spreading Formosana type, and but vigorous. So when we were renovating, we dig it up and we divided it out, and it's in the sale. We've got tongue ferns, Pyrosia lingua hiryu, which is a kind of crested edge one, perfect for growing on. It likes a little bit of a slope in a woodland. I'm actually growing it I've got a big hanging basket with a Japanese maple in it, and I've got the Pyrosia, this tongue fern, planted in that with hopes that it'll creep all the way around the side. Perfectly fine all winter long. It's cold tolerant. I've started planting some right at the base of trees because they kind of are.
They fit in those
rhizomes,
little,
and I'm hoping it'll climb up the tree a little bit. But I saw it at another garden, Norfolk Botanic Garden, where they had a big clump of it and had put it, probably it was grown in a pot, and they took the whole thing and put it right in the crotch of a big tree, and it had grown in there and was amazing.
Stunning.
What else do we got? Some other ferns that are really good out of the lath house. But yeah, there's some. Stewardias.
Nice.
We've got some nice big Stewardias, and that is a plant that if you see it once with a little bit of maturity and that incredible bark, you'll be like, oh yeah, now I get why people love bark so much on their trees.
That's a true connoisseur plant. Like a nice specimen in a garden is hard to beat.
And they're not often available. They can be a little bit difficult to propagate. This is just the straight species, which is fantastic, and they're camellia relatives. They're deciduous trees, but with camellia relatives, so they have kind of a white camellia flower on there. They are the most spectacular trees. I've got quite a few Stewardias in my garden. I have them in the woodland. They're not growing terribly fast there, and I don't think they'll flower the best there.
That's where I like them the best, is kind of in the edge of a woodland. But that's yeah. I forgot to mention. I meant to grab one of those, but they're really good size.
Yeah, we've got they're 3 gallon, I guess, and 5 feet tall.
We couldn't fit all the plants in the sale on the table, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah,
but,
somewhere 115 or so, 110, 115.
Yeah, big selection.
Plants.
The only other 3 that have no purchases yet are Ilex White Lights, Podocarpus Upright Alabama Form, and Nefophia laxiflora. Any of those that you wanted to?
Yes.
Go for it.
So, the Ilex Coronata White Lights, it's a Japanese holly. I got it just this past season in Massachusetts. I think a nursery up there, O'Brien Nurseryman, who I always thought was just a hosta nursery, but he had incredible stuff. It's kind of an upright Japanese holly, so small little evergreen leaves. It is not super heavily variegated. It's pretty light. I planted one at my house. My plan is to give it a good shearing. I'm gonna not do a little pyramid, but keep it kind of small and shear it regularly so I get the new growth, which the new growth is the most variegated on it. But it's, I'm trying to think. It may be the only Japanese holly that I grow in my garden. And I'm doing it in some pretty decent shade, and it seems to be even more white in some shade.
Probably one of the only things you shear in your garden too.
You know, I'm becoming a little bit more, Greg's inspired me to do a little bit more pruning in my garden, so I've got a couple things. The Podocarpus.
That's a good Podocarpus.
I love Podocarpus. We got it as Podocarpus macrophyllus Alabama upright. I'm not sure who it came from in Alabama. It might have been Hayes Jackson. It might have been Buddy Lee. I don't know. But it always kind of befuddled me because it grows very upright, but it has short needles. And we had one of the best conifer folks I know, especially with kind of the conifer general on the edges, like Podocarpus. Ron Dieterman was up visiting, and I showed it to him, and he said, "Oh, that's Podocarpus chingianus." So we've got the correct name on it. We've been growing it for years here. It's such a cool plant. It's got these short, flat needles. It's very cool.
Yeah, they're very uniform. And that Ilex White Lights has been sitting in the nursery. I was like, can I have these? And Mark was like, no, they're for the sale. Fine. So for them to not go, I mean, that's an insult to me personally.
What was the other one?
The other one was Nefophia laxiflora.
Nefophia laxiflora. So that's a red hot poker.
Yeah.
I am in a bit of a red hot poker phase. I keep getting
Which side?
On the
Like or don't like?
Like.
Okay.
I've gone through both.
I have too. I'm back towards the like, thanks to Bernadette.
Yeah, there's been some really good ones. So I've been getting seedless from other botanic gardens. So Nefophia laxiflora, there's a really good description written for it, because I don't remember what it is. Hold
on. Let's see, details.
I imagine it has a kind of sparse flower stalk.
Is it in FileMaker? Because all that it says here is a South African native with slender keeled leaves and bright orange inflorescences in summer, whose long florets tend to droop downward. Native to moist grasslands and thus prefers regular water in the summer.
Yep, that sounds about right.
All right.
It's great. I hope it's a great plant. It's one I've never grown before, but that is one of the things that blew me away with the Nepophias in South Africa. Was I think of them because they look like, yuccas or agaves or something like that, and they've got the bright orange flowers that they want baking sun and dry. And there were quite a few species that I saw that were growing in kind of drainage ditches in low areas. And I think that we have much of the older stuff came from species that do want it more hot and dry. And I think some of these that come from more, are growing in a little more water are going to be a little bit happier in our high humidity.
And our heavier soil.
And heavier soil, yeah. So but this is not one I've grown before. What we're selling you is the ones, we kept 3 or 5 back for the Arboretum, and we're selling the other ones for you. So
these are new to us too?
These are new to us, yeah.
Oh, cool.
New species to us.
Okay. You guys want to hit 2 quick questions?
Let's do it.
Do it.
They're tough. Paul asked, do any of the true grasses, especially ones that might be used for turf, have any resistance to ground pearl?
Ground pearl. I don't know who ground pearl is.
I also do not know. Is it, maybe he'll give us some clarification here in the chat, and we'll move on to Marilyn's question. Can Cyrilla grow at a pond edge, taking both the periods of drought and when water rises above the roots?
Which one?
Cyrilla.
I would think so, but but it may be that it needs to be up high enough to really get established before it gets inundated. It's a plant that I've always wanted to try in a rain garden.
I have 2, because you see it. We do have one in ours, I think. You see it on the edge, not where it's going to be covered in water usually.
Right.
Like I don't associate it with that level of moisture where it's getting water covered up and that kind of stuff, like taxodiums or things like that. But I don't know. I think it's better suited where it can take wet feet for a certain amount of time, but it needs to be kind of drained. I think. Yeah. To perform at its best.
Yeah, I think we do have one in a rain garden, but a rain garden gets wet and then dries, and is a dry garden that gets periodically wet. So it had time to establish. If you're talking about a pond where it could be even just a lot of the roots under for a good bit of time, I think it might be too much for it.
Yeah, I think that's too much of a good thing.
Okay, so Lisa has provided some clarification on ground pearl. Ground pearls are scale insects that are turf pests. Does that ring any bells?
Never heard of ground pearls.
Unfortunately, neither have I. So this is not my area.
I don't know of any scale insect that affects turf grass.
No,
I don't.
I don't either.
I would direct that to the extension folks, the toolbox. There might be some better turf grass info there. I am a strong advocate and hater of turf grass. It's a good backdrop, but that's not an insect I've ever been familiar with, unfortunately.
Tell us how you really feel, Greg.
Now, you have a dog. I'm sure it
that's
likes
important.
grass.
I have 2 dogs. Very important.
Right.
Grass is important.
And they're low to the ground, so they're all up in the grass.
They're right in it.
Yeah.
It has its place. I should thank you, Evan, for correcting. I retract my harsh statement. I don't like manicured, throw fertilizer, throw fungicides, throw herbicides, throw insecticides at grass. I like green grass, cut 3 to 4 inches. I don't water my grass. I don't treat my grass for armyworms or beetles. It's green. The dogs run around with their little paws on it, close to the ground. That's my kind of turf grass.
Agreed.
Here's my grass here. These are the grasses I like.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a dog, some of those, like the first grass you showed,
Spiralis.
The spiralis, the prairie drop seed. You replace your turf with that.
It's beautiful,
but not great to walk on.
No, but nice to look at.
And I always tell people the way you with spiralis, you can kind of just leave it. But I always tell people the way you care for a lawn like that is to go once in late winter, early spring, you go borrow your neighbor's lawnmower, set it at its highest height, and just zip over everything, and then bring it back.
We used to burn ours, but I don't recommend that.
Yeah, probably wouldn't like that in the city limits.
No. Might make your neighbors upset.
Yeah, well, I think that's all the questions we have for today, and that's all the plants that we brought up here. So thank you guys for listening to us talk about our fall sale. Mark, Greg, thank you guys very much for your time and expertise. Blake, thank you for filming. Thank you guys for joining us. There's a lot of thanks going around.
That's right.
And I hope that you all join us next week for How to Plan a New Garden. That'll be next Wednesday with me and Sophia McCusker. I think that's
Excellent.
all for now. Signing off.